Alright everyone, I just wanted to share another one of my science experiments here. Pickled cauliflower. Food preservation is just as important as food production, and pickling is a great way to accomplish that. Back in February, I started experimenting with some pickled cauliflower. This small bottle here, this is what's left of my first batch. I had 2 of these jars originally. It turned out really good, really enjoyed it. As you can see, this is all that's left. So a couple weeks ago I decided to whip up a second batch. For this one I added some carrots, just because who doesn't love carrots? And I figured that it would pair well with the flavors that I have going on in here. So I'm going to walk you through just how to throw this together. It's real simple. Basically all that you need is a head of cauliflower and chop it up into the florets. The carrots are optional. You're going to need 1 lettuce leaf. You can kind of see it there. And then you'll need 2 cloves of garlic, a 2-inch piece of ginger, and a 2-inch piece of turmeric. You peel and dice all of that. Toss that in the bottom of your jar. If you're using 2 regular sized mason jars, you split it in half. Half in one jar and half in the other. For this second batch, I just decided to use this big jar that we have. So I just put it all on the bottom there. And then you add in your cauliflower. Like I said, I added some carrots this time. And then you take your lettuce leaf and stick that down on top. And the purpose of the lettuce leaf is to weigh everything down and keep it from floating up. In this one, we actually have a couple glass weights for pickling to help push everything down below the level of the brine. So I have one of those glass weights on top of the lettuce leaf or cabbage leaf in here. And then you need a 2% brine. I'm going to include a link in the description with the recipe that I used for that, and that will tell you how much salt to add to the water to get your 2% brine solution. And then once you do that, put the lid on and let it sit. If you have an actual lid like this, you can use a coffee filter. If you do that, you have to spray it with vinegar to keep mold from growing. I prefer just using the lid so I don't have to mess with that. But what you do have to do is you have to burp it every day, because you're going to have gas starting to build up in here, and if you don't burp it, you could have some explosive pickled cauliflower in your kitchen. So burp it every day. After anywhere from 3 to 5 days, you can taste it and see if you like the flavor. If you don't, you can leave it in longer. I've had this going for, actually I haven't kept track of the days. We're over a week now, I think. One thing that concerns me a little bit, the flavor's starting to get there, and I'm going to sample a little bit today and see where it's at. But as you can see, my old batch, the small jars, is a lot more yellow. So it soaked up a lot more of the ginger and turmeric flavor. Whereas in this jar, most of the cauliflower is still pretty white. Last time I sampled it, it was starting to get the flavor, but I'm just concerned that it's not quite getting enough. See closely on the bottom, some of the pieces at the bottom are getting more yellow. But like I said, I'm just kind of concerned that it hasn't quite worked its way up all the way through. So, let me see if I can get this lid off with one hand here. Okay, I couldn't get the lid off with one hand, so I had to prep it. So to burp it, just take the lid off. First couple days, I actually had, it was almost like you have a pop, and you pour it in a glass, it's all fizzing. I was getting gas just coming up from the bottom. Usually what I do is I kind of tap it a little bit. At this point, there's not too much gas coming up. Tap it, kind of spin the jar a little bit. Just try to work those gas bubbles up out of there. Get them to come out. And you can smell it pretty strongly now. And there you can see our glass weight right there. Chopsticks weren't really designed to lift things this heavy. There's that. Alright. Oh, that looks like a good piece. Okay, that's pretty good. You can definitely taste the garlic in that. I'm thinking I might leave it for another day or so. Just because I like it to be extra strong, extra spicy. But that's my experiment with pickled cauliflower. Of course, there's so many different ways you can pickle things. I was never really a fan of pickles growing up, but then once I realized all the variety of pickled goods you can make, pickled okra is one of my favorites, of course the pickled cauliflower. So then I really started to appreciate pickled goods a lot more, more than just your regular pickled cucumbers.